What's up, everyone? The verdict. We are here live streaming. I'm trying to figure this out as I go, so you're going to have to bear with me. We have multiple screens up here trying to figure this out. Want to? Uh-oh. Got a little bit of a delay, so I can't really see any of these chats or anyone else who's even around. All right, I could see Facebook here. We're going to go with this for now. Yeah, so we are shouting out Berlin Spirits here in Berlin, Connecticut. My man Adam gave us this whiskey to taste, Rebel 100. I'll give you some more information on this bad boy in a few seconds. We got a couple of people here in Facebook, it looks like. Little bit of a delay. All right, bear with me as I figure all this out. Hope you guys had a good week, productive week. All right, I'm going to read a little bit about Lux Row, the distiller of this here fine whiskey. Okay, so here we go. Lux Row Distillers. Nearly a decade ago, our distillery started as an idea, vision to become a leading producer of fine bourbons. All my bourbon lovers out there. In 2018, that dream became a reality when Lux Row Distillers opened its doors. Since then, we've mastered the art of crafting exceptional bourbons, and we are proud to share these samples with you. We invite you to taste these samples and select your favorite. Remember, each single barrel is unique, so challenge yourself to identify the unique taste nuances and flavor characteristics of each. Refer to the tasting notes and FAQs in this booklet. I do not have the booklet here with me to help you guide you through the tasting experience. Whichever barrel you choose, we're confident you'll be pleased with your decision. Cheers, the Lux Row Single Barrel Team. All right, and then this is a little bit about the Rebel 100. Rebel 100, 6-year bottled in bond, single barrel, spotlights our original time-honored wheaten bourbon recipe created in 1849, a product of one distillation season by one distiller at one distillery. This extra-aged bourbon champions authenticity while defying uniformity. Aged for 6 years in a federally bonded warehouse, that's interesting, and bottled at 100 proof. Love the 100 proof. Its legacy is evident not only in its time-honored recipe, but in its unwavering, timeless spirit. Each hand-picked single barrel is unique, and the exact flavor profile can vary from barrel to barrel. But you can find notes of dark fruits followed by citrus and oak. Very interesting. So, the Rebel 100, aged 6 years, bottled in bond, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, hand selected by Berlin Spirits. Again, here in Berlin, Connecticut. Shout out to Adam. So this is Adam's latest single barrel. It's just in this week. He has about 110 bottles, aged 6.5 years, bottles at 100 proof, as we said. It's a new barrel program from Rebel. Only the second release in Connecticut. It's a wheated bourbon, which has a smoother texture, and they selected it from a batch of 3 different samples. All right, so I'm going to get pouring. Hope you guys are out there enjoying a drink at the end of the week. It's been a long, productive week here at Monarch Law. Had a new client come in today. Had a couple of new clients on the phone and working on a various bunch of things, different litigation that's popping off at the same time. So I have my drink here. We're going to cheers and let you know what I think of this Rebel 100. Salute. Very nice. A wheated bourbon. I really like this. Smooth. Now, look, I'm going to be honest. I am just like a straight Scotch guy. Typically drink Dewar's. But this is great. This is really good. I'm not a connoisseur trying to get there. I'm just a regular guy, an attorney, having a drink at the end of a long week, sharing my thoughts on this fine whiskey. It looks like I have a chat message here. Let's see what's going on. Cheers. Cheers. My wife is cheersing me. Salute. But yeah, so I wanted to kind of do something different at the end of the week, go live, have something to drink with friends, people out there, and answer any legal questions that you guys have about employment law. I had a bunch of calls today. I had one lady who, unfortunately is suffering some shady things happening to her in the workplace after coming back from a medical leave, but her pay hasn't changed, just responsibilities, and her direct reports are now reporting to somebody else. And it's trending in a bad area, bad direction. But at the moment, I don't think there's a legal claim just yet. So that's something that we talked about today with this potential client. And then I had I have a client that I signed up, as I said earlier, who has a very serious health condition, affected his ability to perform the job, but he could perform the essential functions of the job with a reasonable accommodation. The company even granted him intermittent FMLA, but then made an about face and terminated him. So that's a client that we just signed up, and looking forward to representing him and protecting his rights as we move forward with that. And I'm using my laptop camera here because my Anchor camera, which is a webcam, external webcam. Ah, Uncle Charlie, cheers. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Easter. But my webcam, for some reason, is not working well with this Riverside FM. There's some lag in it. So I'm forced to use my the webcam that's built into the laptop. Let me send a message to everyone. Yeah, so using this camera, it seems good enough. I tried to figure out how to put my cell phone in as a second web camera, and it's just that I'm not sure what I'm doing here, and I was just too busy today to figure it out. But yeah, we're here having a drink. You guys have that much time left before I get out of here. So if you have any questions, fire away. Here's the bottle. I'm enjoying this. And you guys should definitely go check out Adam at Berlin Spirits, 118 Mill Street here in Berlin, not Berlin, Berlin, Connecticut. And he's a great guy, puts on some really great events as well. Just did a wine tasting recently. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but my wife did, and she had a great time. So cheers to Adam. Adam is at a baseball game. He was going to join us, but he wasn't able to make that happen. But in the next one, I'm hoping to have him here in the office or remote. Yeah, so this is my first time doing this live stream through Riverside, and it's supposed to be linking or connecting to YouTube, our YouTube page for Monarch Law, and our Facebook page. And it seems to be pulling in the chats from the different, platforms, Facebook, YouTube. And so as those come in, I'm not sure how quick it is, if it's like simultaneous or there's a little bit of a lag. All right, Uncle Charlie has a question. He's retired. He wants to know, how much can he earn and still collect his Social Security? That's a good question. That's more of a Social Security question. I haven't really had that come up other than with some clients who have Social Security disability, and they are still able to work up to a certain amount of hours. I don't know, and I'm sure that equates to whatever the total wages comes out to as part of that equation. So I don't know the number. I don't know the exact cap on the total amount. Would say monthly gross earnings, but there definitely is a cap. If you're retired and collecting Social Security, that's a good question. I think you can still work even though you're collecting Social Security because you've retired. You've reached a certain age. You could still work, but there may be some limitation on, this in the Social Security regulations in terms of how much you can gross per year. And that's a good question. I just don't know the full answer to. But cheers for the question. I appreciate it. And I'm not sure if this is going to be recorded. And if it is, we'll try to cut it up into clips and put that out there for content on our social media platforms. That would be one clip in terms of the Social Security, disability, and monetary cap on wages. But yeah, keep them coming. Let's see. If I go to Facebook, let's see what happens. I know before there was an echo because it was playing. Let me see if I can just mute that. Got 6 viewers there. Rachel. Rachel has a question. I'm going to get back. Let me get out of Facebook. Yeah, see, Rachel's question didn't come in yet. So it's taken a little while for me to get your questions. This is a work in progress. But it's a long week. It's a Friday. It's time to have a drink. The verdict is in. It's an early verdict. It's a quick one. And I'm going to give Rebel 100. I'm going to do these on a grade of 1 to 10, just arbitrarily going to do that. And I'm going to give this a 9. 9 out of 10. I'm really enjoying it. All right, I'll go back to Facebook. Let's see if I can get Rachel's question. Well, that's a good question. Rachel's question, which hasn't made its way to Riverside, is if you get severance, can you still collect unemployment? Yes, you can. So you will, depending, so let's say you are let go, you're separated from work, and the employer gives you a severance agreement to sign. So the old rule was if you were getting a severance agreement that included a release of claims, so the company is saying, in exchange for this money that you otherwise would not be, entitled to receive, you're going to give us the peace of mind of releasing any claims, any potential lawsuits you might try to file against us. All right. And because of that release of claims, you were giving up something to get something, you would be eligible for unemployment right away. Right. You didn't have to wait. The rule changed about a year and a half ago. So now, if you get a severance payment or a severance agreement, if it includes a release of claims or even if it doesn't, the Connecticut Department of Labor will pause your ability to collect until that runs out. There's a gray area, and the gray area is if you get that in a lump sum payment, does that mean you only have to wait 1 week? Right? And so I don't know how that's come out yet. I haven't seen any Department of Labor administrative decisions on that issue yet. It's fairly new issue. And so I'm going to keep monitoring those decisions and searching and seeing if there's anything new that comes out. I certainly would make the argument that the person shouldn't be penalized and have to wait 10 weeks, even if just because they received 10 weeks of pay for 1 week. I'm saying it's 1 week. You could be paused, and then it starts the second week. He should get or she should get that unemployment. And just generally, unemployment, you're going to be qualified to receive unemployment. You have to work for the company for at least more than 3 months, typically, right? You have to have sufficient credits, what they call like wage credits, in 2 of the prior 4 quarters. So that means you have to work there at least for 2 quarters. So more than 3 months, right? And if you're eligible, that means you were not terminated for willful misconduct or you didn't quit, right? So if you quit, you don't get unemployment benefits, but there's always an exception. If you're quitting because of something that the employer does, because the employer, you used to be an attorney and now the boss is making you scrub toilets or doing something crazy, right? Or discriminating against you and you quit because of that. And you could prove that to the unemployment office, you're going to be eligible for benefits, even though you quit. Willful misconduct, if you were terminated, right? The classic example is you're terminated because you stole money or you stole product. You're not getting unemployment benefits. Another way to prove willful misconduct is where there's a policy, right? A written policy that's known, like you know about it. You signed an employee handbook acknowledging that you received it, that you read it, you understood it. So that's a pro tip for those employers out there. If you have an employee handbook, you got to have that language in there so that you can use it down the road for unemployment hearings. You signed it, you understood it, you read it, and the company uniformly enforces that particular policy. So many years ago, I had a client who worked at a grocery store, and there was a policy that said you could not purchase food while you were on the clock. You had to go to the back, punch out, go back onto the floor, get your stuff, and cash out and go back to the break room and eat. Nobody followed it. Nobody enforced it. And my client was a Muslim lady, and there were negative comments made to her about her hijab and other things too. And this was one of the things that they were using to terminate her was, hey, we had a legitimate reason for terminating you, and that's because you were violating our policies, and so we let you go for that. So I had 2 cases, right? I was helping her with her unemployment appeal, and I was also helping her on the discrimination side with the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. So that's my little spiel on the unemployment. These questions are not they're not filtering in. I'm going to have to keep going back and forth, I guess. All right, let's see. Community standards here, Facebook. Thanks for those questions. Uncle Charlie and Rachel. If anyone else has questions, shoot them over. And if you are just joining this live stream, we started around 5:15. I am tasting a wheated bourbon from Rebel 100. Got this here from Adam, the owner of Berlin Spirits here in Berlin, Connecticut. Much appreciated. Obviously, these will get better as we go. I'm going to get a better camera, and I got to figure out this stream. I may just stream on a social media platform instead of using Riverside FM. I've been having some issues with Riverside FM, like I said earlier, about the webcam I have, my external webcam. About a few weeks ago, it just started to lag. I would, uh, when I move from side to side, it would just be a long delay. And that's not acceptable, and kind of screwed up a podcast that I did with my man Dan Field at Momentum Marketing. Shout out to Dan. And so because of that, I had to take my video out of that podcast, the video podcast, and just have Dan all by himself. And I threw a picture of my face every time I was talking. I threw that in there just to so Dan wasn't just by himself the whole time. But hopefully you guys check that out. That's the Employer Exchange podcast, where we are trying to build better workplaces one story at a time. We interview employers, small business owners, and learn about their experience as employers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Everything that goes on as an employer, hiring and firing, employee handbooks, written policies, PTO, 401ks, benefits, remote working, difficult employees, personnel files, terminations leading to, claims, getting a nasty letter from a lawyer. I just actually helped a local business here who had one of the most difficult employees I've ever encountered doing some defense work. And my practice is more plaintiff employee work. Probably 60 to 70% of the work I do for employment is on the individual side, 30% being with employers, small business owners. And this guy was a salesman, and he refused to return company property, something up to about $4,000 worth of, computer, cell phone. They even had a car for him. And, he was making all these threats, saying he was going to go to the Department of Labor. My client did everything exactly the way it needed to do it. There's no violations of the law. This guy was just super difficult. But in the end, he returned most of the property, and my clients are happy with that. Let's see. I think I have another chat here. Message. Let's see. What is weeded? Wheated. Weeded. I would try weeded bourbon, but this is wheated with a T. So I'm assuming it's some kind of wheat. Let's see if it says it on here. No, just Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Yeah, I don't know it. I mean, I'm not a connoisseur. So Uncle Charlie, you tell me, what is wheated bourbon? And if anyone knows if there is a weed with a D bourbon, I would definitely try that. Guys can't see my fancy light back here. My Temu light. It's the best $3.75 I've ever spent. Yeah, so that's interesting. So I don't know why I didn't get Rachel's comment here ported over. Darn Weeded was my choice too. Yeah. John Frank, I need you to do some research. Do some research for us and see if there is such a thing out there. And if not, I would like to be partners. I believe there's a way to extract the THC, right? Isn't there are THC products like liquid products? There's got to be a THC bourbon. Weeded bourbon. That would be funny. All right, I'm almost done with this cup. And I'm going to get a better cup. I had to go plastic. I forgot to bring a nice glass from home. But yeah, we're here at Monarch Law in Berlin, Connecticut, 363 New Britain Road. We handle all types of employment matters, everything from severance agreements, discrimination, non-competes, violation of trade secrets. We're seeing that a lot. And it's interesting, right? Because what does a company do when it fails to have an employee sign a non-compete or a non-solicit? There's really not much they can do, right? That person can go across the street, open up a new store, and compete right away. But if there's any kind of evidence where the employee is forwarding emails to himself, downloading customer lists, doing some other shady stuff, then, and that's what I've been seeing. I actually have 3 cases right now where I represent individuals, employees who left and who are being sued for various reasons. And, for the most part, I think the claims are bogus. But, there was some evidence that clients were forwarding emails, et cetera. But they didn't do anything with them. They're not trade secrets. They're not, the secret formula to Coca-Cola or, the Big Mac or whatever. It's, tell John I want my commission tomorrow kind of stuff. And that's not a trade secret. But, these companies, some of them who don't have a non-compete may actually have a confidentiality or a non-disclosure that is broad enough and would encompass this kind of thing. And they'll use it at the end if they learn there's some kind of plan to maybe go work for a competitor and to threaten the employee and to, in that threat, get them to agree to a non-compete. So we won't sue you. We won't try to get our attorney's fees for you violating our trade secrets if you sign a non-compete. So they'll backdoor the non-compete, which is, I don't know, I've just seen that a lot in the last year. All right, Uncle Charlie says, weeded is used in place of rye. Okay. Weeded must have more than 51% corn. So cheers to that tidbit. We appreciate it. Uncle Charlie's going to give me a class in bourbon tasting at Easter, hopefully. And I have a special whiskey for you guys for Easter that I did get from Berlin Spirits. Again, shout out to Adam. And we'll be having that. We'll be enjoying that over Easter. Let's see. What else we got going on here? Well, I hope you guys all had a good week. We've been on for about, I don't know, half hour or so. Hope you guys had a productive week and have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Have some fun. And feel free to reach out if you ever have any kind of employment issues or questions. I am happy to help. I've been doing employment for a pretty long time and feel like I have a pretty good knowledge base of most of the issues. So happy to help anyone, any friends, colleagues who have a question. you know, it's always good to talk to someone like me or any kind of employment lawyer before the proverbial you know what hits the fan, right? People often will call us and they already signed a severance, but they want to sue. Or, you know, they were just terminated, but they never complained about discrimination before. And, you know, talking to someone like me before all that happens is half the battle. You know, creating a record. You know, going back to that example about complaining internally, using the company's policy, following it to a T. You know, I have to complain. Here's the form to the HR department, not to John down the hall, but follow the process, create a record, a written record that you can then turn back to and say, look, I complained. And then 2 days later, they fired me for being 5 minutes late. Everyone's always late. I've been late before. They never fired me. But then I complained, and then they terminated my employment. And that's a pretty good retaliation claim right there. So with that, I'm going to finish this cup, finish my bourbon, and this was our first, hopefully many more. We'll try a different bourbon, a different whiskey, whatever Adam provides. We will taste it and let you know what it is. But the verdict is in. Rebel 100, 9 out of 10. I'm teetering on a 10 out of 10, but I said 9 already. I'm going to stick with that. That was good. So thank you, friends, colleagues, class, or the tasting, I should say. The tasting is dismissed. We are adjourned. You guys have a great weekend, and I will see you all again soon.